Welcome to Art with Kasey. I'm Kasey, and today I'm going to show you how to paint this cute tall cactus with watercolors. This is what the finished product will look like. So let's get started. Okay, so to get started, we're just going to sketch in our cactus, and that will help us later. I am going to do that in marker, but I want you to use pencil and draw as light as you possibly can. I think that will be helpful. So my cactus is going to be in a pot. If you just want yours to be on the ground, you don't have to draw the little pot, but I'm going to draw a pot. And that's going to kind of be the anchor for where my cactus sits. So that's a big wide arc. And then on top of it, just a nice big long rectangle. And I am not worried about how perfectly straight anything is in this drawing. Now I'm going to flip, and this is going to help draw the middle section of my cactus. So I'm going to go, imagine this is in thirds, and I'm going to try to stay in that middle third, and I'm going to draw a sort of straight line. It doesn't have to be straight, it's a cactus. And another sort of straight line. And I want it to taper as it gets to the top, so I'm not going to go all the way to the top. I'm just going to taper. There we go. So we've got our middle main stalk of the cactus. And now we can draw the other little stalks. Ooh, dog hair, bonus. So you can draw just two if you just want the regular old two, or you can draw more. I'm going to draw, this first one's going to be kind of small. And we go up sort of like just a backwards J. And then we do the same thing down here, but go wider. And then we'll come up and round it off. So there's one little branch. And this next branch is going to be bigger. So we're going to go wider and taller. Kind of taper toward the middle. Wider and taller. And then we're going to meet this one also in the middle. So there's that arm of the cactus. Now for this arm, I don't want to be directly across from that one. I want to be a little higher up. I'm going to do this little J shape and kind of taper toward the middle. And then come down and make that next one and meet it in the middle. Now I do have enough room to have another one coming off here, so I decided to just do it. So I'm going to start same thing with my little J. And come up a little higher and then taper off that way. So that's the basic structure of our cactus. If you want more over here, please add it. Feel free. Then we can add little cactus flowers wherever we feel like we want one. And I like the flowers a lot. If you don't have to add them. But for my flower, I'm going to start with this simple little very fat leaf shape. And just draw a few of those. So I'm gonna have like 3 at the bottom, and then I'll have a couple stacked maybe behind it. So there's one. I feel like I need one more leaning downward. This is a big giant flower. All right, so that's my cactus's little, it's almost like if my cactus was a lady, it's her little hair feathers. All right, so I wanna put, wherever you feel like you have room, you can put these flowers. And if you don't want them, you don't have to have them. I like to make them a little bit sideways. I just think they're very cute that way. And they're very floppity, so there's no real wrong way to do these, just however you feel. So there's 2, let's have a third one somewhere. Where do we want a third one? I've put mine here, here, and here on the one that will watercolor, so I'll just stick with that. So I'm gonna add another one here. And again, I'm simply putting these flower petal, almost leafy shapes next to each other. And then I can throw a few in between. And you can add as many as you want to. All right, the last thing that we need to do in pencil before we start painting is to add the lines. The lines are pretty simple. I am just going to make one that goes downward, and they don't have to be straight. I'm going for straight, but if they're not, it's okay. So this is one section of my cactus, and I'm keeping in mind that I want this section to be easy for me to paint with my paintbrush at one time. So we'll paint each section separately. So I want to make sure that I don't make them too small, that they're just very obnoxious for me to get my paintbrush into. So this looks like it's going to work pretty well for the size of the paintbrush that I will be working with. Maybe you have tiny paintbrushes and you want to make a lot of tiny sections, but for this activity, this is what I'm doing. So we'll do the same thing in each of these little sections. And I'm following the contours around. And at the top, I want to make a little, like all the sections kind of come together. So I'm starting them kind of all at the same point. And I'll do that on this one as well. So now we're really getting all these cute little sections in here. And I'm going to come down and follow those contours around. Follow it around. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to split this into one more section? Maybe I do. Maybe I do. You don't have to. It's up to you. All right, and then we've got our one last little section. So I'm going to add the lines here. And then we're ready to paint. All right, I'm back. So the way we're gonna do this, we're gonna paint each of these stripes separately. And that's gonna give our cactus a little bit of dimension. I'm gonna add a little bit of blues and greens into mine. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix some different blues and greens here. So I'll have easy access. You can do this in the lid of your paint pan if you'd like to. Most of them are sectioned so that you have the capability to mix where you want. These colors need to be very light and very watery. So I'm going to start with a yellow, and I'm not really mixing it with anything. I just want this yellow to be very watered down. I don't want it to be solid and goopy like these paints can get sometimes. So I'm going to have a yellow and a green. So I'm going to water down some green. This part takes a long time, but it's nice to have these colors already ready to go when we get ready to paint. And it's important to water them down or they don't mix as nicely. So I've got yellow. I'm going to water that down just a little bit more. I've got yellow and green. And then I'm going to do some blue also. Just getting water. And I'm going to add some blue. I may also actually do a purple because why not? It's our imagination. We can do whatever. Your cactus can be rainbow colored. It doesn't have to be realistic cactus colors. It could be brown and green. It just depends on the look that you want at the end of your piece. I like a lot of colors, a lot of different colors. So that's what I tend to use. But I'm going to add some purple just for fun. I'll add you over here, purple. And I'll water that purple down too. If you haven't ever worked with watercolors, or if it's just been a long time since you worked with watercolors, most of the time I like to mix over in a different place. So that's why I have this little palette. I know not everyone has a palette, but if you have even the least expensive watercolors, usually have a sectioned lid. So you have different places you can mix inside that lid. Excuse me. All right, so now is the time for me to mix some of these in-between colors. So I'm going to take here, blue. And you may have more colors in your watercolor palette than I do. And if you do, you don't always have to mix everything. But because I'm working with the 8-color palette, and I know many of you are also working with the 8-color palette, I'm just going to show you how I mix these in-between colors. So I get this nice teal by mixing green and blue. Just a lovely blue-green. You can always add a tiny bit of black to that also if you want to. And then I'm going to mix a yellow-green here. So that is pretty self-explanatory. It's yellow. And then we'll add a little green to it. Kind of mix a nice limey apple green. Always like that one. I am not going to mix yellow and purple because that will make brown. I might mix purple and blue though. Let's do a little blue and purple. A little bit of blue, a little bit of purple. And we don't need a great amount of paint, so we're not really covering that much paper. All right, so now we've got this lovely little indigo. This is the palette that I am going to be working with. If you want to work with different colors, mix whatever you want. Your cactus can be red and orange and brown if that is what you would like to do. Need a little more blue and a little more purple in here. I was too light-handed. Okay. And these may dry before I get to them, but that's okay because I can just add more water and they will come right back to me. There. So now I have a lot of different colors to use. I am going to start with my things over here on the left so that I can kind of work my way this way and I'll remember where I've painted. So for my first one, I'm just going to start with yellow and I'm going to paint just this one section all yellow. It doesn't matter if you run over your line a little bit, so please do not worry about that. And then we're going to do the thing that is the most fun to do with watercolor. We are going to let it mix with some other colors. So I've got a base color down. So now I'm going to grab a little bit of this color and I'm going to make some dots here and there, or some lines. I'm not trying to completely blend. I'm just trying to add this color to that stripe. And then I'll add a little bit of my bluish purple to it here and there. And maybe a little bit of green. Maybe I need some of this bright yellow green. All right. So we're just going to do this to each of these stripes. The trick is you don't want to work on a stripe next to a stripe that isn't pretty dry. So we're going to kind of travel across our paper and do every other. And for my next one, I'm just going to start with a different color. So you can start with a different color each time, which is what I probably will do. And some of them can be darker, some of them can be lighter. All right. So this one's this pretty green blue color. And I'm probably going to add a little, maybe a little bit of purple to it. Yeah. All right, so you can see how that's kind of creating a new and interesting color. And if you don't like the way something's drying over there, you can always go back and add a little more as we're walking away from it to go to another section. All right, then I can work up here. So let's start with this color. I'm gonna start with the outside ones here. And these will all, because we're using this same color scheme, these will all just blend together and look like the same plant. It's a wonderful, wonderfully relaxing activity to just let these watercolors all blend together in the way that they will. So that was that indigo color. What am I gonna use? I'm gonna use my regular green. And I'm gonna just slide it down the side there. And whatever it does in that space, just let it do that thing. Let it dry. Let it be the way it's gonna be. I find that in activities like this, when I try to control stuff too much, is when I start getting really, really frustrated. You may really know what you're doing, and that may not be a problem for you, but that is a problem for me. I know it. What color will I start with on the top one? I started with a darker color here. I'll go with my yellow green, and I'll fill in this section. And sometimes if you get a little too much paint in there, I feel like that's too watery, I can dry my brush out and I can lift some of that paint off. See how that's working? And dab it out and then lift off a little bit more paint. All right, this one, let's put in, I'm gonna dab a little bit of blue here and there. And then maybe I'll add, what color did I start with? Yellow green? I'll put some of this blue-green in there. Down along the side. And as this dries, it's going to blend and it's going to be really, really lovely. So I'm seeing also that I have a little bit of paint pooling here, so I'm going to lift that. Anywhere you feel like you have a little too much water and you don't want it there, you can lift that off. All right, so these all have something next to them that's wet, so I'm going to move on and I'm going to skip this one because it's next to those areas that are drying. And I'm going to go into this second section. And I'm going to start with purple. I know it seems weird to think of purple on a cactus, but it's all going to work out in the end because all of these colors are going to be together in a big happy cactus party. I think it's going to be wonderful. If all you use is different greens and yellows because you're not cool with the very colorful look for the cactus, you could use greens and yellows and browns, and you would have something that is more to your liking with the colors that you want. But it's still going to be successful. So I'm sort of just loosely trying to stay within this section. And this section's bigger, so it's drying a little more quickly through the center there. And I want to make sure that this section is wet when I come back and put new colors in it. So I'm going to put some blue-green. And I don't have to do the same thing all the way through. Then I'm just going to put some of this green over here. And then maybe up top. Let's see, I'll put a little actual blue up top. You can dot, you can stripe, whatever is bringing you joy, whatever you feel like doing. Just work section by section. Put whatever colors you want in there. And then as it's drying, you can decide if you want to lift any of those out of there or if you're very happy with the way things are going. Trying not to overthink anything. I still want to be able to see some of that purple, right? Because we kind of worked on that purple. All right, for my next big stripe, I'm going to start with yellow. And I'm going to skip a section. That's important. Because if I don't, all my colors are going to run together a little sooner than I want them to. If you are intensely frustrated by painting inside these lines, you can just do this technique all over your cactus. And then later you can go in and add some defining lines. That's another way to do it. But I definitely wanted to try this way and see how it would work. So I'm going to make sure that the top is still damp so that when I put other colors in here, they will have a means to get around and blend in. So let's add, I'm going to add the blue-green, I think. And I'm going to add a stripe. And then maybe another stripe. A little bit of dot action here and there. And then who else? Who else wants to be in this color party? Let's do this yellow-green. And I know what you're thinking. This does not look impressive. It doesn't. But it will. Just trust the process. Trust it. And this paint will kind of bloom into the paint around it as it dries. Just anywhere you want a little more color. Dab it in there. Add it. But I think that it's the way that I want it when I leave it a little bit splotchy. A little bit separated like this. And we'll watch this as it dries. It's going to get to be a little more uniform, but it's still going to have those color differences that are going to make our eyes so happy when we come back and look at this. All right, I've got a lot of water right here, so I'm going to lift a little bit of that off. Okay, So now I can start working on this little friend over here. And which one should I do? I'll do the outside ones. So let's start. I'm going to start with blue on this one. Just going to let all of this blue paint flow into this section and make itself at home in this arm of our happy little cactus. All right. And I think it doesn't really matter if you paint over your pencil, you stay in the lines. It's going to be successful anyway. And those pencil lines kind of blend right in to the finished product because we see the color of that paint. All right, blue, you're going to get, I think, some of this bright green. Just some dots. And then maybe some yellow. That one's kind of boring, huh? Let's see. What else can we do? I'm gonna add some tiny purple. Just a little. Just enough to make it sort of interesting. Maybe not too close to the yellow because I don't want it to get too brown. But if we look, like if you look right here, oh, I love the way that is drying. That's looking really, really nice. All right, for this next outside section, what haven't we started with in a while? We haven't started with bright green in a while, so I'll do that. And I'm just making sure I don't touch that other section there because I don't want these paints to run together. I want them to have the opportunity to dry. Before I paint next door to them. And there will be a little bit of overlap, and that's okay. But mostly, I want these sections to be able to dry on their own as well as I can. There we go. All right. So in this section, what should we do? We've got kind of have a dark one over there. I haven't done the blue-green in a minute, so let's add some of that. Oh, that's nice. Looking good. Really nice. All right. So I'm just going to do my splotchy dots and let the paint do what the paint's going to do. Just filling this little section in well. All right. And some of these places I feel like there's a little too much paint, so I'm going to lift a little bit of that water off. All right, so I have one little arm of this cactus left. And I do need to be careful up against this edge because I just painted there, right? Okay, maybe let's go down. I'm going to paint this pot. So your pot can be any color you want, or if you have like the horizon, whatever, that's fine too. I think I'm just going to go straight in with like orange and red and brown and make it just your regular old terracotta pot. And I'm going to paint these sections separately so that I can mix my paint all up in each of them and kind of have a little bit of a boundary line or a differentiation between the two shapes that make up that pot. So I'm putting a light wash of my orange here. And then once I have that down, I'm gonna dot maybe some red and brown and yellow in here. So that's just a light wash of orange. And then I'll get some red and go right in. Just make some little dots because I want it to be nice and splotchety, right? And then some brown. Maybe I'll make a brown line across the top. See what happens there. I can add here and there. Maybe I'll have a brown line at the bottom as well. Give it a little bit of depth and dimension. I want this wet paint to all touch the other wet paint. A couple of dry spots there. Just dotting through. And I'll add a little bit of yellow. I can come back and add some orange also. I'm gonna water it down because I don't want it gets gummy sometimes when it's in the paint pan. All right. So I'm just gonna let that yellow sort of bloom into the other colors that are there. I love what's happening. It's making me very happy. That's always fun. And then I think I'm gonna put some little brown dots too. I'm trying to be really light with my paint, not apply a whole bunch of paint. But this is so much fun. I love putting these little dots of paint around. And then, all right, maybe I do need more orange. So then just a little more of the orange throughout. And as that dries, it's gonna give us that wonderful look of the natural clay. And because these colors are a little bit brighter, a little warmer, they are nice to have next to our cactus, which is mostly cooler colors. And again, if you feel like you have too much water, too much color, you can come in having dried your brush off and lift a little bit of that paint. And then sometimes I'll just move around the paint that's already there to cover up those places where I've lifted. All right. Oh, it's a little too much right here. I'm gonna get rid of that. You're captain of your own ship. I know you have a different paint situation on your paper than me. All right, so now I've got this going. I have given this some time to dry, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint these edges, just being mindful that I don't wanna get really, really close to that. So I'm gonna start with a yellow, and I'll do the outside ones here. So I'll start with this yellow, but I'm not gonna get super duper close to that one. I'm gonna try to keep a little boundary. Sometimes when you're trying really hard to keep a little boundary, it doesn't work, and that's okay. Just let it do what it's gonna do. You can go back and maybe change it later, or maybe it'll be like a really great mistake. Something that just looks amazing. And you'll say, oh, thank you, paint. I didn't want to do that, and you made me do it, and it looks great. All right, so I've got yellow and blue. What else do we want in there? Let's add a little bit of our yellow green. Whoa, that really took over, didn't it? All right, well, that's what the paint's doing then. Try and cover some of this edge here. That's turning into almost like an olive green. I like it. It wasn't what I planned, I will tell you. I did not want this color, but now that it's here, you know, I don't hate it. I'll lift this because there is quite a bit of paint in this tiny section. So I'm going to lift it out. And then I think I do need a little more color in there. So I'm going to go back and add a little of my, this is just the regular blue. And I'm just going to go down this edge and we'll see what happens. But I want you to make sure that you allow yourself to kind of play in each section. See what the paint is doing. Rotate this so everything's nearby. So then on the other side, I think I'll start with purple. I'm filling this section that's right here. It's looking good. And then I'll start thinking about what colors am I going to bring in here with my purple. So I'm going to do some yellow green, I think. Just add some dots here and there. And then I might add a little bit of blue. I think That's a good combo there. That yellow green really kind of lightens up the purple and makes it lovely. So, excuse me, you may be able to guess. Now we're going to paint the other sections. So we can come over here because these are mostly dry. These have started drying. What we have to be careful about is not messing up these parts over here. That's a challenge, but I think I'm up for it. I think I'm able to do it. All right, so I started this one with a yellowish color, and I started this one with that aqua color. I think the one between them, I'm gonna start with a green. So this will be the test. We'll see if our sections are dry enough to paint next to, and I think they are. And it's all right if you overlap a little bit. And if you find that they're running into each other just a tiny bit, that's gonna give it that look that we really love about watercolor. So I don't want you to stress too hard about things breaching boundaries. That's part of working with watercolor. We have to accept the way it behaves. It's our friend, but sometimes it doesn't want us to be in complete control. All right, so that one's green. What are we gonna put in there? I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow. I think that will be pretty. So I'm gonna add yellow splotches. And then maybe some blue. All right, we'll see how that turns out. And then I have this one left here on the outside. So let's start with blue. Let's start with blue. Just get this section painted lightly. And like we said, it's gonna be all right if we run over that section a little bit that's next to us. That's just gonna make it look even more fun. Even more shaded at the place where these two sections of our cactus join. All right. So now I'm going to come in with, let's see, I'm going to go with purple. I want some purple down here on the bottom. I love the way that looks. I'm going to go purple all the way down this side. That's our edge. I think it looks great. I love this purple. And then I will dab perhaps a little bit of green throughout there as well. So I'll come down this side with my green and just make sure that we're meeting that boundary. All right, so that's that one. Then we can go and do this center. Let's see, what do we have going on here? We have a lot of just a bluish green. Should we start dark? Should we start yellow? Let's do, I'm gonna go in yellow. I'm running out of yellow, so I'm gonna mix a little bit more over here. Hello, yellow. And I'm gonna make this one nice and bright and yellow. So that's great because the ones on the sides of it are definitely not bright and yellow. They're a little darker. So it's gonna look great when we come in here with a darker color. It's gonna coordinate a little bit. There we go. And then maybe a little purple. You can see I have a little bleeding action there, but that's all right. I'm not super worried about it. It's just gonna be what it's gonna be. All right, so I'm gonna dry my brush out and I'm gonna lift a little bit of that water off. Maybe I will, there's just fuzz everywhere. Lift a little bit of that off, hopefully keeping that pretty brightness of my yellow. Maybe I need to put a little more of another color in there. Maybe some yellow. I don't want to be too watery with my yellow though. All right, so now because I have this painted, I don't want to paint this, right? So I'll paint the center and we'll see how that goes. So I've got a purpley one over here, a yellowy one over here. So I think before I'm going to mix some more yellow green because I'm running out of it. So yellow and green. And I'm just mix a little up so I'll have it on hand should I decide that I need it. That is not as yellow as I want it to be. Oh my goodness. All right, and I'm gonna add just a little more yellow, just to brighten it up. Alrighty. Okay, so for this next one, I think I'm gonna go right in with the blue-green. And it's drying out, so I've got to put some more water in it. I may put a little more blue and a little more green in it. A little blue, a little green, and then we'll mix it. And I think that's good. I think it's a great color. All right, so I'm gonna do my middle here. So I'm just gonna start at the top and make my way down, getting more paint as I need it. Starting at the top and heading down on this side as well. It's a little harder on that side for me because I'm right-handed. So this blue-green is maybe mixed a little thicker than the earlier versions of paint I was using because it's not staying quite as watery. So I'm going to grab a little bit of water and just wash that brush of water through there. And that's going to move the paint around that's already on the paper. I don't feel like I need any more color, but I do need a little more water. So that is why I went into the water instead of going back into the paint. Now I'll go back in the paint a little bit. Okay. So I've got that section, and I'm definitely gonna add some yellow to it because I think it needs some brightness. So there's a little bit of yellow. I'm gonna try to add the yellow over here on the side that is next to the purple and not on the side that's next to that yellow green. We'll see what happens. Ooh, that looks great. Very happy with the way that looks. I don't even know if I want to put any other colors in there. Oh, who are we kidding? I do. I want to put a little more color in there. Put a little purple. But I'm going to put purple over here on the side that's by the yellow. And we'll see how that all turns out. I'm just adding, well, I was trying to just add a little bit, but there I added maybe a little more. Just using the very tippy tip of my brush. Just to kind of encourage my paint to, hey, stay over here. Stay by the yellow, where you will add some beautiful contrast. Don't be tempted to go over to where the other purple is. You can do this paint. You can make it on your own. All right, I put a little more up here. I find a lot of joy in just playing with these watercolors. I hope that you do as well. All right, now we can come over here. I don't know if this is dry enough. Let's see. Let's do this one. It's definitely gonna be a blue color. I don't know which blue. Maybe bright blue. Just get some regular old bright, good old royal blue. And start this one, and it starts kind of somewhere here. Trying to be mindful of the boundary that I've set over here with pencil. Going over it a little bit though. It is what it is, it's fine. No one at the end of this painting, other than you who are sharing this time with me, no one's gonna look at it and say, oh, she totally went not where her pencil lines were. I can't believe it. I hate this cactus. If they do, they're not my audience, so that's all right. This painting is for me, and I am enjoying it. I'm loving the process, and that is really the only thing that matters here. So I'm gonna add some more blue, and then I'm definitely gonna add some yellows and greens to this one. Maybe yellow-green, since we have quite a bit of that one. All right, so I'm gonna add that yellow-green here and there. brighten it up a little bit because it's right next to this yellow. Maybe I also will just go ahead and add some yellow, which looks just like the yellow green, doesn't it? That was a fun experiment. All right, so that's looking, I love it. It's looking so cute. How are we gonna get it? I gotta lighten it up a little bit. All right. Sometimes also I just need to tell myself, leave it alone. Just let it be what it is. I'm gonna add some tiny purples too. We'll just see what those purples do. And this is all gonna dry much lighter than it looks when it's wet. So that's important to remember as well. What's going on over here? All right, I have a little place where it's breaching the boundary, so I'm just gonna make the whole cactus a little bit wider, and that is gonna solve that problem. There we go. Okay, ta-da, problem solved. Okay, now we have, so I have this middle, but I just painted this, so I don't know if I really want to do that middle. Maybe I'll do this middle and then we'll go back. All right, that one is definitely going to be a green. We don't have a green on this little section of plant yet. So I'm going to add this yellow green, and hopefully the areas around it are dry enough that it's okay. Yeah, that's working. All right, and then inside my yellow green, I'm gonna put some blue. Wow, that was really traveling. All right, we'll just see how that dries up. What can we do now? I think this one should be safe now. So let's see, we have a blue, a yellow, a purple, a green, and a purple. So that's all our colors, right? I think I'll do this one yellow. I haven't started yellow one in a while. And then I'll add the details to it a little bit differently than I did the other yellow. Oh, come on, get out of that section. You are not invited over there. All right, so let's just bring our cute little yellow down. When I flatten my brush like this and I'm barely touching over there, I feel like it's a little more successful. All right. So now I can put some color in this yellow, and I'm definitely gonna put some yellow green in there. Plenty of it, because I love the way this color melts into the yellow. It's so pretty. And then maybe also some of this indigo, this dark bluish purple color, which I'm running out of a little bit, but that's all right. Because we've got purple next to it, so I want it to be coordinating a little bit with that. Put a little more indigo just right here down at the bottom. And maybe right here by this purple area. All right, pretty happy with the way that is looking. Might have to lift off a little bit of this water because it is starting to go have a paint party with the cactus section next door, which is not really what I wanted. Okay, I've got this section here, but this, I don't know, it still looks kind of wet. We'll just go for it. I'm gonna start with purple. Purple, purple, purple. Let's see. Ooh, I really like the way the purple and the greens look together. Yeah, we're breaching a little bit here, but that's okay. I am not going to let it ruin my day. Nothing I can do about it. So it's going to be what it decides to be. All right, so now I've got purple. What color should I put in there? Let's do aqua, blue, green. And the purple is always a nice look. Okay. And then maybe some yellow. Maybe yellow green. All right, so that's all a little splotchy. That's fine. Now is the time that you let your own creativity go and you do whatever you want there in the flowers. You do whatever you want with the top of the pot and the background. And we come back together and we can see how it turned out. I'm going to time lapse mine, so I'll see you soon. All right, so I dried what I had, painted the top of my flower pot, and then I added the tips of the flowers. I did some red, and I came back after that dried a little and added some purple to the bottom of the flowers. They look sort of blendy, they're fun, and I went back and lifted a little of that paint off so it would dry more quickly. I added some grass at the bottom with my different colors of green. And then I put a lot of speckles on the background. I didn't feel like painting the background in, so I put all these nice little speckles in different colors, and then I got it good and dry. And this would have been fine to leave it this way, but I did go back in with my marker and add all of those cute little prickly cactus details. And this is what it turned out looking like. You can see close up. My lines aren't perfect. They're a little willy-nilly, spontaneous, but it's still really, really cute at the end. I love the way it turned out. I'm very happy with the mixture of all of these colors, and I hope you're doing well with yours. Keep on painting, and I'll see you next time.